So in other words, I can get my students from DVC to come out and plant a cover crop. I can't call the master gardeners and say, come do a cover crop. I could call the master gardeners and say, would you come to a class on cover cropping? And they could come do that. But this cannot be a project run by the University of California Master Gardeners. I have 15 years of approving projects for them, so I know the criteria and where you get stuck within the UC definitions.
I guess I'm interested in whether they could be engaged in just the part that was for giving away the food and for raising not the crops for sale, but for the crops that are going to be donated. And not the agriculture part that's supposed to support the overall program.
If we frame this tightly enough so that they could not be out here growing the food, but they could be out here teaching a work party how to grow the food. Right.
Well, yeah, looking at the education piece, right. and they were I was very, very impressed with what they've done in Walnut Creek. And rather than reinventing the wheel, if this opportunity is available to us, I'd like to see us use that as much as possible. UC Davis is a great resource for this kind of thing, and I would love to see them engaged in doing whatever we're going to do out here, because they really have experience with this, and I think experience is going to be the key to the success. And I realize you're very experienced, but it's going to take a community to build this thing. Absolutely. And it won't be just you and Carolyn doing the work, and that's important. The other question I have relates to recycled water, and there will be recycled water permits that will be required on this property if we're going to use the water. There will be a whole manual that has to be developed, and people will have to be designated as responsible persons for the use of the water. And are you expecting to get the recycled water permit, or where does that fit into your overall program?
I didn't realize that we would be pulling the permit, but I would not anticipate a problem doing that if we need to.
Okay, there is a process you have to go through that could take a while, so it's again, we're back to having to do the steps in order to get where we have to get to be official, and that's very important too, that needs to be accomplished.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
We actually have started a study for Title 22 for recycled water for this site, and so we're not ready to actually submit an application because we actually have to have the focus on an applicant.
Right.
So that has to be done.
So the district would handle the recycled water permitting?
Yes, we were looking at it for the whole property.
Okay.
And we would do this normally for all of our other customers, so it's kind of our standard procedure, so it's not specific to the farm.
Okay, great. The last and maybe most important question is, I got to tell you, I'm absolutely confused by what kind of acreage you really need. If we read the documents that have been circulated by the proponents of this project, if this project doesn't get 33 acres, it dies. Now you're here telling us that you need 10 acres. We've proposed 10 acres, and you're telling us we need 15 acres. What is it we really need, and what is it that you're looking for? Because I got to tell you, it is so unclear, and there is so much conflicting information that's been presented. When I talked to Carolyn in Walnut Creek, she said if we didn't get the full 33 acres, forget it. And so I don't know what's going on with regard to what is a sustainable project and what ought to be approved, because what I'm hearing you say is the proposal that's been brought before you today isn't acceptable because it's not 15 acres. If I read the tea leaves right, you need 10 acres of sustainable, sellable product and 5 acres to do the education and the other farm. Is that what I understand you want?
That would be my perspective completely. And again, this has to do with my having farmed before on a 10-acre piece of property. So anybody, please understand this is coming, I have not talked to Carolyn about this. At least last time I had this conversation with her was probably a week ago. My perspective is you need 10 acres to make enough money to cover costs. You need 10 acres in production. If we are going to be donating the food, doing the education, additional acreage would be needed. So optimally, I would say 15. Can I do it on 10? I could really try to make this work on 10. I mean, again, this is, I'm sorry, maybe that's not clear enough. I mean, I think I've done it on 10 before, but it was not self-sustaining within the period of time I was there.
But 10 includes the educational piece, it includes the donatable.
10 plantable acres.
Okay, but I'm confused by the plantable part, because when you talk to plantable, it sounds like me, those are the farming acres that you need to be able to sell crop from.
Yes.
As opposed to the 5 acres that they've proposed that would be education and donation of a product. So is the donation product the same as the farmable acres?
Not if we're going to be covering costs.
So you need 10 acres of farmable and 5 acres of educational. You
That,
want 15 acres, not
that would-
33.
that would be, from my perspective, what the minimum that we would really need to make this work within the framework that we've talked about. So that there is food to donate, so there's enough, but we make money. We cover costs. I mean, again, I'm not talking about, nobody's walking out of here driving any.
Right, I'm not.
But at the same time, I want, my perspective on this is just being very realistic about what I think you have to make this financially viable. And then dealing with access, training area, that almost has to be an additional acreage. So that 5 acres, it could be the donated cropland, educational center, et cetera, which would have to involve that zone 4 corner, right? To me, that needs to be not part of the money-making piece of the farm.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I think so,
Okay.
provided, I should not recognize the other materials that have been given to us. They're out there in the public, but I think the other question I would have for you is, if this were set up so that there was a first period of time where we would see how this went for a couple of years, and then there might be an option down the road if we can't use the acre for something else, the 5 acres, and we moved into that, would that be an acceptable way to structure some kind of a program here, where you started off with 10 and then we see where we go based on how it works?
I actually would hope that you would do something like that, because I think that if we can't, there needs to be an evaluation process.
Right.
I mean, that if this is not working, then there needs to be, we need to have standards that we meet and goals that we meet along the way. And so absolutely, I would want that. To me, that feels like a very responsible way of handling this.
Okay. The 60-day notice requirement that has been included here, if we move the training area up closer to the road and didn't include the longer road to get down to that area, how does that impact your ability to do the training that you want to do?
I think the difficulty with moving the training area north is it gets out of the zone 4. I think that if we, I think it's only that little corner area that I think is in the place where we can, am I right?
The green area, if you look on the screen, it has a 3-acre piece, and then there's a 2-acre piece in the southwest. That's the zone 4.
So
And-
is the golden area also zone 4?
No, it's zone 2. So if you see the line there on the left or the west, it's zone 4, and on the east, it's zone 2.
And zone 2 doesn't allow.
Zone 2, well, let me clarify. Zone 2, there is a density requirement, which is 30 people per acre. So you would be limited to 30 people, essentially in a structure. So if they're going to have larger teaching facilities, that would be difficult with that constraint. The Airport Land Use Commission, they have said that their biggest concern was that small children would not know in case, a plane crash, what to do. And that they would want to make sure that there would be chaperones and so, there was a kind of a convoluted conversation about, making sure that there would be enough chaperones to small children so that you wouldn't have to instruct them every time they came onto the site, run for cover if the airplane crashed. And so teaching would not be prohibited in the zone 2, but again, it would have to fall within 30 people per acre, and you wouldn't want to do it with first graders. If it's primarily high school and college students, I think they would know if an airplane is crashing what to do, and it wouldn't be quite as disastrous.
One other question with regard to that. The parking and access facilities for this, is that included in the 10 acres, or is that outside the 10 acres? That would be necessary in order to sustain the educational facilities.
When we developed this plan, as you can see, there's kind of a little hatch there.